Apparently, I am related to Princess Diana. Yeah, but unfortunately, I can't tell you much more. I don't know how I'm related to her. My grandmother insists that.
What DNA revealed about Princess Diana's mother is something that was never supposed to leave a genetics lab in Edinburgh. In 2013, Dr. Jim Wilson ran a routine ancestry test on 2 of Diana's maternal relatives. And the result was so impossible, he ran it 3 times. Their bloodline carried a genetic marker called R30B. Only 14 people on the entire planet have it. 13 live in India. 1 lives in Nepal. Not a single person in Europe has ever carried it, until it showed up in the direct maternal line of the most famous woman in British royal history. This marker didn't come from some distant cousin or forgotten branch. It traced a straight, unbroken line from mother to daughter, stretching back over 200 years to a woman the Spencer family had deliberately erased from every record they could reach. And what that woman's story reveals is far stranger than the DNA itself. The discovery that shouldn't exist. The samples had arrived in Edinburgh weeks earlier. 2 small vials of saliva sent by 2 women who had never met each other. Both were third cousins of Diana's mother, Frances Shan Kidd. Both had been carefully selected for one reason. They shared an unbroken mother-to-daughter line stretching back over 200 years. Dr. Wilson's team at the University of Edinburgh, working alongside the genetic ancestry company Britain's DNA, wasn't looking for anything extraordinary. This was supposed to be routine. Another aristocratic bloodline confirmed. Another quiet footnote filed away in the long, predictable history of the English upper class. It was anything but. Here's what you need to understand about mitochondrial DNA. It doesn't shuffle like regular genetics. It passes unchanged from mother to daughter, generation after generation. A sealed message nobody can alter. If an ancestor carried a marker 1,000 years ago, her descendants carry it today. And R30 billion is not European. It's not African. It's not from the Americas. R30 billion and its closely related branches are entirely South Asian in origin. When Dr. Wilson saw it appear in Diana's maternal line, he didn't believe his own data. He ran the analysis again, then a 3rd time. The result didn't change. Here's the catch. 2 separate living relatives, independently tested, confirmed the exact same marker. Dr. Wilson later told the press the evidence was unassailable, not a fluke, not contamination. A clear genetic trail pointing to one conclusion. Somewhere around 7 generations before Princess Diana, a woman with South Asian ancestry entered her direct maternal line. Not a distant cousin, not a minor branch. The direct line, mother to daughter, all the way to Diana herself. That meant every official Spencer genealogy, every royal biography, every wedding program was missing an entire chapter. Someone real had been deliberately scraped from the story. Someone whose blood still flows through the veins of princes. And when Wilson's team traced R30 billion back through 7 generations, the name they found had been erased from every record the family could reach. If the stories powerful families spend centuries burying are the ones you want to hear, subscribe now. This one is just getting started. Eliza Kewark, the woman they erased. Her name was Eliza Kewark. For over 2 centuries, almost nobody knew she existed. Not in the Spencer genealogies, not in a single royal biography. If you searched every family record available before 2013, you'd find no trace of her. She was born around 1790 in Surat, a teeming port city on India's western coast in what is now Gujarat. Picture it, merchant ships from a dozen nations jammed into the harbor, traders shouting in a patchwork of languages, spices, textiles, and ambition pouring through narrow streets where cultures collided every day. Surat was one of India's great crossroads, the kind of place where a woman of mixed heritage could exist without drawing. Attention, Eliza's father carried the Armenian name Kewark. She signed her own letters in Armenian script. Remember that detail. It would become the most useful lie the Spencer family ever told. But her mother's line, the one carrying R30 billion, was South Asian. Now, this is where the story turns. As a young woman, Eliza became the companion of Theodore Forbes, a Scottish merchant who arrived in Surat around 1809 to work for the East India Company. He employed her as his housekeeper. But the reality went far deeper than any job title. Together they had 2 children, a daughter named Catherine, born in 1812, and a son named Alexander, born 2 years later. For a time, they lived as a family, first in Surat, then in Mocha, Yemen, where Theodore was appointed British political resident. His job was to buy coffee for the East India Company and monitor shipping at the entrance to the Red Sea. Letters from this period show Eliza was more than a servant. Theodore relied on her. Multilingual abilities. She translated conversations, navigated local customs, and became an asset to his diplomatic work. By every private measure, they were a family. But here's the deal. As Theodore's career advanced and he accepted a partnership in Bombay, the social realities of British India closed in like a trap. In the gentlemen's clubs of colonial Bombay, a companion with Indian blood wasn't just frowned upon. She was a career-ending liability. The era of tolerating mixed relationships was vanishing. Theodore made a devastating choice. He left Eliza and the children behind in Surat. He moved to Bombay alone. And while he attended society dinners and climbed the ranks, Eliza and her children lived separately, cut off from the world he was building without them. And get this, what happened next still haunts this story 2 centuries later. Years after Theodore's death, a packet of letters in non-European script was discovered at the Forbes estate at Biley in Scotland, sitting in a drawer for decades, untouched, unread. When scholars examined them, they realized what they were holding. Letters from Eliza, dictated to a Parsi scribe because her written English wasn't strong enough. Signed in her own hand in Armenian script. Letter after letter, spanning years, all carrying the same desperate plea. She was begging to see her daughter one last time before Catherine was sent to Europe forever. In one letter, she wrote, "My good sir, I pray you let me know. By your leave, I will bring my child to give in your hand by myself." A mother asking permission to hand over her own daughter, knowing that once she did, she would never see that child again. And still, she offered to make the journey herself, just to hold Catherine one last time. Nobody said a word. When Theodore died at sea in 1820, his will described Eliza only as his housekeeper. He called Catherine his reputed natural daughter. Catherine, just 8 years old, was put on a ship bound for Scotland, accompanied only by a servant named Fazagul. She sailed to a country she had never seen, to live with relatives she had never met. She never saw her mother again. But through Catherine, this hidden bloodline didn't just survive, it thrived. Catherine had a daughter. That daughter had a daughter. And on it went until the line produced Ruth, then Frances, then a girl born on the 1st of July, 1961, at Park House on the Sandringham estate. Her name was Diana Frances Spencer. 7 generations from a port city in India to the most famous wedding in television history. And nobody told the truth about where the bloodline began. But the silence wasn't accidental. It was engineered. And the cover-up that followed hid something far more dangerous to the Spencer name. The 2-century cover-up. Victorian Britain didn't just care about pedigree, it worshipped it. For the Spencers, any whisper of non-European ancestry wasn't embarrassing, it was existential. Had it been known that Catherine Forbes carried Indian blood, the family might never have made the marriages that secured their place in the aristocracy. So, they rewrote history, quietly, methodically, and with a thoroughness that lasted centuries. Eliza's surname, Kewark, was close enough to the Armenian name Kievor. She signed letters in Armenian script. Her father may genuinely have had Armenian roots. That single thread became the entire official story. Armenian meant Christian. Armenian meant respectable. Armenian meant safely exotic. Indian heritage would have been treated as a permanent stain no amount of money or marriage could wash away. And the cover-up didn't last one generation. It lasted over 200 years. Genealogies, family trees, marriage registers, church records, all scrubbed of any mention of India. By the 20th century, the lie was so embedded that no one alive questioned it. Think about that. When Diana married Prince Charles in 1981, in front of 750 million viewers, the official biographies still described Eliza Kewark as Armenian, the secret held through 2 world wars, through the collapse of the empire, through the most watched wedding in human history, until 2013, when 2 vials of saliva blew it wide open. After the results were published, reporters tracked down Diana's maternal aunt, Mary Roach. When they told her what the DNA revealed, she paused, then said she had always assumed she was part Armenian and was delighted to also have an Indian background. Let that sink in. A woman in Diana's own family had lived her entire life believing a story that was genetically false. The lie had been so complete that even the people carrying the DNA had no idea what it actually was. But the cover-up didn't just hide an ancestor, it hid the staggering irony of who the Spencers actually were. More royal than the royals. Now, this is where it gets wild. The Spencers weren't just any aristocratic family. By some measures, they were more royal than the royals themselves. Royal blood in Diana's family didn't flow through official marriages. It came through mistresses of King Charles II, Barbara Villiers, Louise de Querouaille, and Nell Gwyn. The Spencer family traces its lineage through all three. Diana descended from Henry Fitzroy, Duke of Grafton, and Charles Lennox, Duke of Richmond, both illegitimate sons of Charles II. 11 generations back, she was a direct descendant of Mary, Queen of Scots. Meanwhile, the Spencer estate at Althorpe had stood since 1508, outlasting wars, dynasties, and the rise and fall of monarchs. The royal family's own name was Saxe-Coburg-Gotha, thoroughly German, until King George V renamed them Windsor during World War I to avoid anti-German backlash. And here's the killer irony. When Diana's engagement was announced, the editors of Burke's Peerage declared that Lady Diana Spencer had more English royal blood than her future husband. The family that spent 2 centuries hiding an Indian ancestor to protect their bloodline had produced the most consequential bride in modern royal history. And she was more royal than the prince she married. The injustice of what they did to Eliza Kewark wasn't just personal, it was pointless. They had the royal blood all along. And still, nobody told the truth, not until the DNA spoke for itself. The line ends. This is where the story closes, and it closes hard. Prince William carries the same rare R30 billion marker that started in Gujarat over 200 years ago. It passed through Eliza Kewark, crossed oceans, survived colonial prejudice, outlasted 2 centuries of erasure, and landed in the DNA of the man who will one day sit on the British throne. The autosomal analysis confirmed Diana's maternal cousins carried between 0.3 and 0.8% South Asian ancestry, meaning William almost certainly carries a small but real portion of Indian DNA. He will be the first British monarch with proven Indian ancestry. The Commonwealth, home to over 1 billion people of South Asian descent, will one day be led by a king with a direct genetic link to their region. That's not symbolism. That's not a diplomatic gesture. That's biology, written into the cells of a man who will wear the crown. But here's the final twist. And this one doesn't have a happy ending. Mitochondrial DNA flows only from mother to child. Men carry it, but cannot pass it on. William inherited 30 billion rand from Diana. His children, George, Charlotte, and Louis, will not inherit it from him. The marker dies with William and his brother Harry. The ancient genetic thread that traveled from a port city in western India through 7 generations of English women across continents and centuries of enforced silence, all the way to the steps of Buckingham Palace. That thread ends here. No future king or queen will carry it forward. Eliza Kewark was erased from the records. Her letters gathered dust for 200 years. Her name was replaced with a lie. Her heritage was scrubbed from every document the family could reach. She fought to see her daughter one last time. They wouldn't let her. They buried her name. They rewrote her story. They turned her into someone she wasn't. And now, 200 years later, even her DNA, the last whisper of proof that she ever existed in this bloodline, will be gone. The Spencers spent 200 years hiding this woman. What else do you think the world's most powerful families are still keeping buried? If you want to find out, subscribe now. Because the stories they don't want you to hear are always the ones most worth telling.